Good morning, everyone. My name is Jack Gershfeld, and this is AVSnap webinar. Welcome, and I appreciate you spending time this morning with me. I know it's a day after Labor Day holiday, and I know that you've been all rested and ready to go, so I appreciate that you're here with me. Let's go ahead and start. Today we're going to cover some library creations, and we had many questions on how to design rack elevations, how to set up libraries for specific applications. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to start with the rack elevation symbol design and see how we can expand it to different designs. So let's go ahead and start with the page size 22 by 17. And what we're going to do, we're going to design a rack elevation for 9U high rack. So let's go ahead and I went on the website and I just basically typed in the rack size dimensions, and this is a picture I got. So that's what I'm going to be using to draw my symbols. So right click, and we're going to just add a new page here. The same page, copy object. So we have two pages, and I'll show you what we need to do second page for. And let's take these dimensions and go ahead and draw them up. And I'm going to just draw a rectangle, and I'm going to type in right here width 22 inches, and I'm going to type in height of 21.63. Now you immediately notice that the rack is much bigger than the page size, and that makes it very difficult to work with rack elevations when they're so big. So we have to scale it. We have to scale it so that it fits on the page. So double click on the page, and right on the bottom right here, we have a scale factor. You can adjust any page to have any scale factor. In this case, I'm going to say, make it half the size. So for this rack elevation, I'm going to say 2:1. Now you may want to do 3:1 or do 4:1, whatever you decide how the rack elevation should look on your page. But I'm going to go ahead and set a 2:1, 1:2 rack elevation. I'm going to apply this. And as you notice, when I click on the rectangle, it's now 44 inches wide and 43 inches high. So it's just doubled. And that's exactly what we needed. So we're going to go ahead and re-enter 22 inches on the width. And we're going to go ahead and enter 21.63 on the height. And now our rack elevation fits nicely into our page. So we're on the bottom right here on the right-hand side, you see the scale is 1 inch has 2 inches. So it's half the size. So now we're going to do the inside dimensions right here. That's an inside dimension. So I'm going to create another rectangle, and I'm going to type in 19.12 width. 19.12 width, and 17.5 height. 17.5 height. Okay, so because this is our main outline, I'm going to go ahead and lock it in place by pressing letter U. And then when I align them together using the alignment block on the left-hand side, I'm going to center them and center them. It will align within this rectangle because the outer rectangle is locked. Anything we try to align will be aligned to the locked object. Now, if you lock two objects, then you won't be able to align them together, okay? Because it's going to be, you can't move the locked object. So now we have the inside and we have the outside, and we need to also do the rails. So I'm going to go ahead and lock this now. So we have two outer locked, and I'm going to do the rails right now. And the rails I'm going to do 0.75 wide, and the height will be identical to what this is right here, so 17.5. So let's go ahead and put 17.5 as a height, 17.5. So we got our height. We're going to double it because we need one on each side, and I'm going to select the inside rectangle, select the left rectangle, and I'm going to align it to the left, and I'm going to center it. The same thing I'm going to do with the one on the right. I'm going to select the one rectangle and then locked rectangle and align it to the right and center it. As you can see, we now create our rectangle form. Okay, so let's go ahead and select all of this and lock it. And you can see the mouse pointer now had a little lock on it. That means all of them are locked now. And now we're going to put an outline of the 1U rack. And as you know, that 1U is 1.75 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and put here width of 19.2, 19.12, and the height 1.75. So there's my height and width. And the next thing I need to do is to align it with the rectangle. So I'm going to go ahead and align it vertically, move it up, and horizontally lined up. So there's our outline right here. What I will do also, I'll make it a little gray, light gray color, so that I don't see, so I see the outline and then light gray will be right behind it. Now the next thing we need to do is to put 10 of them here. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate it. So right click or repeat it. I'm going to repeat it, and we're going to repeat it down. Okay. We're going to move it down 1.75, spacing between, 180 degrees, that's pointing down, and we're going to do it 9 times. Because we already have 1, so 9 times. And you can see it's automatically now lined everything up. And we move it to the back. So now you have your pretty much rack elevation done. You have the rack set up. So one of the things people do sometimes, they make it a little dot lines like this. So you have a dot line so you can see how everything lined up. So the next thing we need to do is to select all of this, right click, and convert it to symbol. And this would be an outline symbol. All right. Now that we have our symbol, it's fully movable. We don't need to scale it. But now we need to create a library. So you can do a couple of things. So I'm done with this, so I don't need this dimension anymore. So I'm done with this. And I'm going to just save the symbol for right now. Later on, we can use it for something else and put a library in. But sometimes I like just to save a symbol quickly. So this is going to be my rack 10U high. And there's my symbol. So that's done. All right, so that's one way to create rack elevation, and we'll see how we're going to put components inside this rack. Now, we don't have any snap points. If you want, we can put snap points, but for right now, it's just a rack elevation. So the next thing we want to do is to put actual parts inside. So I would move this to a template level. So I'm going to go ahead and call page 1 as a template. And that's where my rack is going to live. All right. And to make it a template, I have to click on the key right here on the left-hand corner, the set as a template, and make it a hidden page. So when I print, I don't have to see this page. So I'm going to also move this tab to the right. So by clicking on the middle of the tab and just dragging it, you see there's a little red vertical line. You can drag it behind page 2. And at page 2, I will call it rack elevation. Okay. So now that we have our rack elevation set up, and you can see that on the template you can move it. And if you want, you can just turn the grid on. Let me see if I can set the grid here. Turn the grid on and align it to the grid if you want, and then just turn it off. And now we'll go to rack elevation page, and we're going to add the template to this page. And now we have a page with the rack elevation. So to test the rack elevation and see how we're going to put components in, I'm going to use one of our products. In this case, I'm going to use the controller, which is the CP500-100, and it basically has a bunch of relays, RS-232 ports, IR ports, and some sensors. And I'm going to just put it in the rack. So I'm going to use the F6. Remember, there's a screen hunter. In your case, maybe a different program that can capture the screen. And you're just going to put it and just capture it a little bit bigger, because not all of them will be perfectly straight in. So let's maybe a little bit move left and right. So I'm just going to grab it a little bit bigger. And now I'm going to go back to here. And you can see that this is actually pretty large compared to what we have here. Let's go ahead and put a rectangle, or you can just go right to the template page. Okay. Well, maybe it's easier here. Let's go ahead and do the rectangle. We'll make it height 1.75 inches. That's going to be our 1 U high. And then we had 19.12 width. 19.12 width. So that's our 1 U unit, and you can see it will fit right into here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and superimpose this and adjust the size of the unit, the photo that we just made, to fit into this rectangle. Okay. So if you want to make it more visible, you can just set the line color to red. And now we're going to come back and just make this smaller until it fits. Now, depending of how you're going to do it, some people want to just adjust it from left to right, and then just adjust up and down until it fits. Okay. And you may want to fine tune it. So right there. So I just fit it in here. So I'm going to go ahead and make this line gray, so it's easier line color. And now I'm going to capture it and put it into the rack. So to capture it, you have to make sure that your zoom factor is 100%. So you're going to go in and say 100%. Now that you're 100% zoom factor, you can capture this and it's going to fit perfectly. If you would make it smaller like this and capture this, which is not 100%, when it scales it back or puts it back on the page, you can see what's going to happen. It's going to bring it much smaller. And it brings it smaller because by percentage, so it's 50% smaller than what you had here. So it's important to have the zoom factor set to exactly 100% before you do any screen capturing. So let's go ahead and do screen capturing. And I'm going to capture screen just outside of these gray lines. All right. And now that it's exact size we want, we're going to copy paste and insert it here. If you need a couple of more of these, you can put one here and with a little spacer. If you do need a little spacer in the rack elevation, you can do a spacer by just taking the gray line, fill it with black if you want, and there's your spacer on the rack elevation. Now, there's a bunch of things we can do here if you want it to be a little bit more interesting. For example, you can put a snap point here. If you put a snap point, let's see. If you go to a symbol right here and put a snap point, then what happens with the symbol, with a snap point, it allows you to actually snap the components together. So when you move it in here, it will snap. But in many cases, I use photo components, so it's easier to just do the size and just put it inside here. Okay, so there's a simple rack elevation of two controllers, CP500-100. Now, sometimes you may need to bring the AV receiver or some other product in, okay? So in this case, I went to a website and I just typed in AV receiver and got a bunch of them. So we're going to grab this one and copy paste. Now, in many cases, you can just drag it and it will show up here right like this, okay? So you can see that you can just adjust it, and there's your 4U high. So it looks like that it's a 4U high rack elevation. And just fine tune it, and you're set in here. All right. So pretty much you can build up your rack any way you want. Now, in this particular case, you can see there's a little white outline. Now, you can get rid of it, and AVSnap provides you some information how to do this. So if you click on letter B or press letter B, you see right there's transparent color. So you can select transparent color and then select the transparent color to be color right here outside. And then say OK. Now notice that it didn't disappear yet, but if you adjust the tolerance just enough, let's go ahead and do the transparent color. OK. And if you adjust the tolerance just enough, it will go ahead and disappear. OK. And now apply, and now you don't have anything, and you can just put your rack elevation here. All right. Sometimes rack elevation is done a little bit different. All right, and I guess there's some comments here, and some people say they use 8:1 for rack elevation, which gives us a nice 44 RU units in 11 by 17 page. That will work too. So whatever you decide the scale is, that's perfectly all right. There's no issues in here. So I'm going to go ahead and move it a little bit down, put a little spacer here in between. I usually like to put a spacer on the bottom also to get some circulation going. And also the top blank panel allows you to just put some text on it, your company name, phone number, and so forth. If you have space. If you don't have space, then of course. And then you can just come in here and cover the 2U high. And there's your rack elevation. Now let's go ahead and move forward with this. And what we're going to do, we're going to use this component and go ahead and design the outline symbol and see how that works in rack elevation. So we're going to we're going to add a new page here, just a duplicate page format. We don't need a template here. And I'm going to go back into the user guide and just capture it a little bit bigger size so it's easier for me to work with this. So go ahead and capture it right here. And then paste it to the home page. And now that I pasted it in the home page, what I would like to do is to put a layer 1 from main layer. So I'm going to select the component, put to layer 1, and you can see there's a tab now for layer 1. And then I'm going to turn off the layer 1 by clicking on the green and blue rectangles right below the layer 1. I'm going to turn off everything so that it doesn't move and I cannot select anything, and I can draw on top of it. So in many cases, what I will do, I will also select this object and make it transparent maybe, so it's not as prevalent on the page, and it's a little bit easier to work with. Okay. So now that I'm here, let's start with the rectangle. And remember, right now, we're just drawing components, so you really don't have to worry about the scale because the photograph already gives you scale. What you want to do is to draw a component, and then later on, if you need to scale it, you can just create a symbol, a scalable symbol, and if it's a scalable symbol, then it will scale as you need to adjust it. So let's go ahead and bring it back to the main layer, paste it, and just becomes as simple as drawing little rectangles here and creating a symbol. And later on, we can add the text. All right. Now, depending on the time you have, you can make it quite complicated and copy every single component, every single text and everything in the symbol. But I just like to use outline. It prints easily, unless you're doing the drawing where you're going to actually put the wires in and connect everything together. But on rack elevations, we usually just put equipment in, but I don't put anything else. So we are almost done here. Now, one of the things is you can select the size. So in this way, width is 1.45, let's say, and the height is 0.58, which is okay, 0.58. So you may want to do just copy-paste so they're all the same. And also, because photographs are not perfect, sometimes you may need to draw the alignment line and align all of them together, or use a function for alignment. So you may want to select these objects and just align everything to the bottom. So remember that the height can be adjusted on all elements at the same time. So if you select this one and the height is 0.5 inches, when you select all the objects and just type in 0.5, all of them will become 0.5. So you don't have to do one at a time. And then you adjust it to the bottom. And then copy-paste, move things to here. There's 4 more done. And move things to here. And then move around. So I'm just walking you through simplified creation of a symbol. Move to the right, and then finally align everything to the bottom. And we're almost done. So I'll leave this just as it is right now, and go ahead, just make one more rectangle on the inside to show the thickness of the enclosure. Then I'm going to lock the outside rectangle by pressing U, select the inside rectangle, and align them together using alignment tool on the left and right hand side. Okay. Now we're going to go to layer 1. Delete this component. We don't need this. And now there's a simple outline. Select everything together. Right click, convert to symbol, and this would be outline symbol. And you can see that now it's fully adjustable. You can do whatever you want with this. Okay, let's go ahead and select this again. I did an undo function. Oh, there it goes. And I'm going to go ahead and copy it now to this elevation, rack elevation. All right. Now, notice that when I created everything, it was transparent. So when I put things on a black line, the transparency shows right through. So what we want to do is probably make some kind of background color so it overrides the background. Okay, so I'm going to bring it back here. And again, you can go back from this symbol to the object and from the object to the symbol. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and convert back to object. Okay, do you want to delete the original object symbol? Yes. So we're back to the object. I'm going to select the outside rectangle, and I'm going to put a fill, a gray fill, like this. So now that I have a gray fill, right-click, convert back to symbol, outline symbol, and then bring it back to rack elevation. And now you can see you're nicely fit right into the rack. And there you go. So that's a simple way of creating the rack elevation symbol, also creating individual component symbols, and then placing them in the rack. Now, depending how you're going to do a list of materials, you can do a list of materials from your block diagram, or you can do a list of materials from the rack elevation. So I usually use the rack elevation just as a reference, and all of my list of materials comes from the diagram of the system, and it makes it consistent. So the rack elevation does not get included in the list of materials. Now, if you don't want it to include in the list of materials, you double-click here on a symbol that you want not to include in bill of materials and say, do not show in list of materials. Okay. So once you do this, it will not show in the list of materials. You can also end a block from list of materials. So now it's not counting anywhere. It's just as a reference. It's just a symbol sitting on a page. And I had a comment here. Let me see if I can copy this comment quickly. And you can see this comment from James. I'll leave it right for everybody to see. So if you set up if you set up rack elevation and use grid setup to be 1.75 inches by 1.75 inches or 0.25 by 0.25, you'll have easy to snap everything in because they're going to be in 1 U high elevation increments. Thank you, James. Good information. All right. So the next thing is, of course, is to move this into your library. So let's go ahead and save this project. By the way, as you work on it, you notice that when I work on a project, I just use them untitled, and I don't really rush to name the project, and I'm not worried about it. And the reason is because if anything happens, you can always go to recover the file. Click on here. There's untitled. We've been working on it, and it just keeps the track of the rack elevations. So we can go ahead and save it and put it on the desktop. And this is my project for right now. And now that it's saved, we're going to press letter E, and we're right here, and we're going to create a new library. Okay. And a new library, as you remember, we created the first symbol in the library is a special symbol. That's where you track the name of your libraries and you track all of the information about the library. So this is my library. It's created today, and this is going to be rack enclosures. Let's put block enclosures, and there we go. And that's it. Now let's go ahead and save this. We're going to put it to desktop again. And we're going to put my library. And return to the project. Okay, when you open the file, you can go back to the recent, my project. It will open just right here. And then right-click and then create library from project. So instead of just moving one at a time, you just create library from project. Now you can definitely click on the symbol and go here and say, and move the symbol into the library, okay? But we want to create a library from everything we created there. So create library from project, you can bring it in, and you can save the library, and it moves everything into the library, okay? So there are many ways of doing it. Now, the reason I created a library, because this option is not available if there's no libraries. The other way you can do is just open any other library, and then you'll have the option of create library from project. But let's go ahead and do this. We'll put this on the desktop, and we'll call it from project. And save that. Please enter library from project. And there it is. Now notice that because we made the template page invisible, and it's a template page, it doesn't take the symbols from that page. It only takes all of the symbols from the project pages. The template pages are not counted as a symbol. So if you want to bring this in, you may want to just click here and paste it here before you do the conversion, and then it will move it also to the library on the right, okay? Now, you can also do copy symbol to library, and that's what I was talking before. You just select this, just right-click, and copy symbol to library, and call the new symbol. It's 10U rack. And are you sure you want to copy it? Yes. And now you have a library and a symbol. If you want to convert everything else to the symbol, of course, just convert to symbol, and this is going to be a photo symbol. Now remember, whether it's a photo symbol, diagram symbol, or outline symbol, there's really no difference, except makes it a little bit easier when create a library. But there's no difference what type of library it is, unless you do metric library, and that basically converts everything to a metric system. So again, right-click and copy symbol to library, and this is going to be CP500 just 100, and yes. So now let's do one more, and we're done with this. So convert to symbol, photo symbol, right-click, and then move it to the library. Copy symbol to library, and we'll do this as the receiver video, audio. Yes. So there's our library. So now, if we delete everything, we can use the library to recreate everything. So you just put the library symbol here, and the way I do it, I just click on it and drag it onto the page, okay? The other way to do it, if you want to position it exactly on the center, you press letter F to center the page. So let's say if the page is like this, you press letter F to center it, and then double-click on the symbol, and it puts it exactly on the middle. It's very important, this function, because there are some cases where you want to include, to put things on the center of the page, especially when you go to the page block symbol. So we'll go over it in a second. And then you come back here and just drag in your components in and put them in the elevation. And of course, you would also add the empty panels for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5U to use this. But that's how simple it is. If you want to come back and this is your project, so let's go ahead and right-click and say, let me edit this. Okay, edit the symbol, edit library, save the project. Yes. Click on this. You may want to come back and make something like a black outline, fill color, and move it to the back now. I made it a little bit too black too fast, so let's say fill line like this, and then make this guy a gray outline. and then come back and make this black. Okay. Give me 1 second. Fill outline. Okay, bring it back to the front. Okay, there we go. Something like this if you want to do it for the rack, so that you can do this. And then when you right-click, return back to the project, yes, and then it automatically updates the symbol. So it's up to you how you want to, what type of colors you want to use, so it's a little bit easier to see. But I like personally unfilled objects. It makes it a little bit easier for me to position things. But filled objects will work just fine. So that part shows you how you get the rack elevation symbols, how you put them back into the library, how you take it from the library, put it back on the page, and then create your rack elevations. The next thing I'd like to do is to create a title block for the pages. And different people create their different title blocks. And we have a library that's already available. So I'm going to go ahead and close all the libraries. That gives you title blocks, but very simplified. And some people like to have more complicated title blocks. So what we're going to do is design a simplified title block and see if from there you can modify it to do anything you need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick out a design that's available that I've seen on the web, and just kind of drag the design in and see what it looks like. Okay. So there's a design of a typical title block that has the name right here, the numbering. It has a current project and a project name and company logo. So that's one of those that you can use. But there's many others. Let's see. You can use a title block that looks like this. Okay. Where you still title block, but you have basically design in the center and all of your information on the bottom. All right, so it's up to you to decide which one you want. Let me see, there's another one that I've used before. And that's the one that we have as a sample, but that's very simple, so you can use this also. As you can see, you basically have a revision history on the bottom, on the top right corner, and then all of the information on the bottom right corner. So I think most of the AV guys will probably use this type of a title block. So let's go ahead and start with this one. We're going to use our example here. It's going to be first, let's go ahead and remove the scale factor, so set 1 to 1. So we're going to apply everything 1 to 1. And we're going to use 22 by 17 page to do the title block. So the first thing I'm going to do is to align it here, and I'm going to set the grid. See, the grid is, right now, I'm going to set it to 0.1 inch by 0.1 inch. And the reason is because when I zoom in on the grid, 0.1 inch by 0.1 inch, it's easy for me to position things. So I'm going to use 0.3 inches on each side to step back 0.3 inches, okay? So zoom in here, step back 0.3 inches, and then move on the bottom and step back 0.3 inches from the bottom. So there's our page outline. Okay. Then we have an internal frame, which is this frame that will give us the space for the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and do that. Internal frame right there, and make sure that we have 0.3 inches for each of the sides also, like we did before. Again, you can design it any way you want. This is just an example of how I would go about designing. This side, we're going to move around and see how much information we need to put in here. Okay, finally, Control A, and lock it in place. Right away, I lock it in place so they don't move. So as I draw around them, I don't get difficulties with this accidentally moving those. All right, let's go ahead and zoom out and see what else do we need to do. Okay, so right on the right-hand side, we're going to have a logo here. So the logo, let's see if I can pick up logo from Altinex website really quickly. 'Cause And there's a logo, F6. Just copy paste for right now, or you can have your artist to design the logo. So there's a logo goes into here. And then we add the text. Company name, 592 Paula Brea, California 92821. All right. There we got the text, except it went inside the selection here. We don't want that. So I'm going to click outside of it, put the text. It creates a text box. And notice that I always use my left hand. If you see what I'm doing, I move really quickly, and a lot of times I use left hand. As you remember, pressing F1 creates a shortcut list. And I've been telling people over and over again, you want to work fast, you want to work efficiently, just print this out, put it in front of you, and in about a couple of weeks, you will not be using the mouse moving all around the screen. You're just going to be using your left hand to create things, okay? So when I need to create a text, I just press letter T, and the text box appeared. So it makes it much easier to build a project and a design, and it's much faster. All right, so let's move on here. We have a current project and project names, so you can put a text box in here. And I'm going to say client name. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it 90 degrees, okay? So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to press the space bar to turn it. But first I'm going to adjust the turn angle. You see right there on the bottom, there's a number 6. It's an angle 1 degree right now. We don't want to turn it by 1 degree. That means we have to press it 90 times before we get to 90 degrees, okay? So there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can scroll until you get to the 90 degrees right here, okay? Or you can always double click on a page, and you can say what would be the rotation angle. So you can preset under the global settings, okay? The other thing you can do is to use a rotate tool, but that's not as precise. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 90 degrees. And instead of pressing space bar, because it will turn it from left to right reading, I'm going to do shift space bar to turn it the other way. Okay, so there's my shift space bar. And then copy paste. And right below it, I'm going to put a project name. And then right below it, I'm going to put project description. Okay, and project description probably going to be a smaller text, so I'm going to make it smaller. Select all 3 objects, align them to the bottom, and then separate them so they're equidistant from each other. And we're set. All right. The next, we draw a line, and that's a line that's going to show us revision numbers. So we're going to put the line, and then everything below it is a revision number. Now, you can do a couple of ways you can do this section right here. One of them, you can create what we have a table, see, object. So if I use a table object, I can create a table right from there. And you can see right here on the top, you have number of columns. You can adjust just by scrolling over. So in this case, I need 2 columns. And number of rows that you can adjust. So in this case, I may create 6, 7 rows, which is going to be my text. Now, the other thing you can see that on the left-hand side is a little bit smaller than the right-hand side. So the columns a little bit different. So you can do this very easily by going to the properties and adjusting the cell width. You see, by adjusting the cell width, you can decide in percentage how much left cell will be smaller than the other. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the left cell, click on the properties, and I'm going to put 30%. I want the one on the left to be 30%, one on the right to be 70%. And that's how and then I'm going to zoom it. So now it's easy to just put it here, adjust it, and the table is ready. Now, if you need to do heading, you can just copy paste, move it up, reduce number of rows. In this case, we need only 2 rows, and scroll it back up. Actually, 1 row would be fine. scroll it back up, select the cell on the left, go to Properties, put 30%, and we're set. So now you can put the ECO, which is Engineering Change Notice, and then you can put on this cell, you can put description. And then adjust the size. Now notice that it's on the top left corner, so I'm going to press letter H and letter V, the same thing, V and H to center them, and that block is now ready. All right. From there on, you can do the same thing to repeat all the other blocks that you need on your title block. Now, one of the things that people like to do, and I haven't seen it on this one, but people also like to do sections where you can actually refer. For example, numbers on the top and letters on the bottom, or letters on the top, numbers on the left-hand side. And what that is, you're actually putting the demarcation points. So if you need to later refer, look at the component in A1, people can refer to that side of the drawing. So what I would do, I would go ahead and increase the scale. So right now we had 0.1 by 0.1. In this case, what I would do is just to put 1 inch by 1 inch. So double click on the page or press letter P for property, and we're going to put 1 inch and 1 inch for both of them. And you can see there's your 1 inch numbers. And what you can do, every 1 inch you can put a line here. So even though your grid's showing at 1 inch, you may want to have the actual, because we're still showing the line, but you may want to have much smaller in between so that you can draw smaller lines. So let's go back to the page setting, and we say grid size, we're going to keep 0.1, but the line size is going to be 1 inch. So this allows me to create a line right here. Every 2 inches, I'm going to put a little vertical mark. Now remember, we use the duplicate. You can also use the duplicate function here, or repeat function, and you can repeat it every 2 inches to the right and every 2 inches to the left. So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 left, I can right click on this, and I can say repeat to the right, every 2 inches, and I'm going to repeat it 4 times. Okay. And now, because we also had a vertical from the last one, it's also repeated vertically. We don't need this vertical stuff, so we can delete this. But you can see it did it on the right-hand side. So I'm going to copy this, paste, and then I'm going to just drag this all the way down and put it on the bottom. Okay. And I'll do the same thing here. Every 2 inches, I put a little tick here. By pressing letter L, I can draw a line. 1, 2, 3. And then in between, you can later put letter A, B, C, or you can put number 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. So there's our title, simplified version of the title. Remember, you can put number of pages in a symbol. So you can put T for text and put page and put number of pages of total number of pages. And you can enter it here, so it's going to be part of your symbol. So if it's part of your symbol, later on you don't have to you just put the symbol on the page and it will automatically give you number of pages. So let's make this smaller a little bit and move it to the right corner. And that's it. So now that I finished design, I'm going to select all of this, Control A, and I'm going to convert it, except this guy. I'm going to delete, so right there, Control A, and I'm going to convert it to symbol. And that's going to be the outline symbol. Up to you what you want to call it, or diagram symbol. And at this time, I do not want to have it adjustable, even though you can have it adjustable, but it doesn't make sense right now to have it adjustable. So what I'm going to do, right-click on the symbol, and I'm going to remove allow size adjustment, just going to remove that. And now it's a fixed symbol. All right. The next thing is to create a library for this symbol. Right-click here, and if you would have a library open, okay, you'd be able to copy the symbol, but there's no libraries open right now. So you can, let's see, you can probably add a library from the desktop, and there's my library. Okay, and then just copy the symbol to the library. And this is going to be a 22 by 17 page title block. And save it, yes. Oh, no, I did something here. All right, no fear. Insert, save symbol to the desktop. If something goes wrong, just save it a different one. So my 22 by 17. See if I can save it to this. And there it is. All right. So now that I have my page, if I ever want to bring the symbol in, I can just drag it in. You can see I can drag it right directly. So I went to the symbol here, picked it up, dragged it to the page. And remember, it always puts it in the center of the page. And that's how it's got all adjusted. And now we have our project in. Now, I don't know why I didn't copy it to the library, but I can troubleshoot later. So right now, what we've done, we covered the page title block design, converting it to the library symbol. You can definitely double-click and put additional properties here. You can make sure that it's not showing in a list of materials, and it's a block from list of materials, so you don't see it. And then we also looked at the rack elevation. We created a symbol for CP 500-100. We create an outline symbol, we create a photo symbol, and then we put it all together. So here's your page format. So let's go ahead and add additional libraries. In this from projects, okay, we'll add that library. We can put our rack elevation here, and now we can put the symbols in. And you can see now that now, of course, we can zoom in on this. You can see now that you have the outline, you have the template, and you have everything else. Now, right now, this is located on the same page, and I usually don't like to do this, so I'm going to remove this from this page. I always like to add a new page and create a template. For me, this is template is critical. Now, you can also have a template to a template. So let's go ahead and. But it only propagates one level. So you see how I have a template here. Then we're going to assign it to page 1, the same template. Now, if you want, let's go ahead and add a new page, duplicate, and we'll make it also a template. And we'll call it temp 2. And I'm just going to do a little rectangle here, just for reference, okay? So you can see I can have a different template, and what I can do, I can apply this template as needed. So let's see, where is my page 1 template? Oh, let me see if I made this template. Oh, I need to click here to make it a template, okay. So you see I can take the template to a template. So now this template uses template 2 to display something. But it doesn't propagate all the way through, you see. It's only if I need to reference something in the template, I can do this, but the template to a template will not propagate to page 1. So the template will propagate to page 1, but this template that's used to create the template will not propagate. So that's why it's important. Although you can do this, but remember there's only one level of propagation of the template. And if you need to switch it, you can switch to template 2, of course, with the background rectangles. But that's only used when you're creating a template. All right. I think we covered all of the stuff I wanted to cover today. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and pause the screen for a second and open all the microphones. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, there was a question. what is the difference between the block list from materials and do not to show list of materials. The only difference is how it's displayed on the screen. Okay, and on the screen, there's a function called that determines if there's an error in the project, and block from list of materials basically says do not regard it even for error checking. Don't even use this. Okay, so it's mainly used when you have symbols and you run the cables around the symbols from one symbol to the other, and if this cable has an issue, it will highlight the symbol as an error. But if you don't want it to highlight it, you just basically say don't even look at anything, block it completely from analyzing the design. So let's go ahead and stop sharing screen for a second. I'm going to pause it. Stop sharing. Okay, let me switch it to...
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
And we're going back to desktop. You can see a desktop. And we're back to normal. So all of you now can unmute yourself. And if you were on the phone and you didn't put the PIN number, it's going to be a little bit hard to unmute yourself. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask the question. Meanwhile, I'm just going to work a little bit on showing a couple of other things in the libraries. So let's go ahead and move to the edit library. Okay, thank you. Sefket, I appreciate you joining us, and one person said thank you to everyone. Let's go ahead and edit library. And remember, when you're editing a library, whichever symbol you're selected, that's the symbol that you're going to be editing when you go to edit library. So edit library, click on it, save changes in the project. Yes, let's go ahead and save the changes. And this is going to be my other project. And the reason you always want to save the project, because when you return it, it will update the symbol with the most recent symbol, okay? So as you notice, when we go to the symbol design in the library, the pane becomes a different color, and now that you know that this is the turquoise, a little bit color, that's your library mode. You also on the top, you can see there's a library mode on the top bar. We say that. Position of the symbol on the page is really irrelevant. It's just a reference because once you put it in, it doesn't matter. Okay. So there's two tabs here on the properties. One is the page tab, which you cannot change, and one is the property tab where you change everything. Okay. So you can see there's a default here. If you set defaults allow size adjustment, everything will default to size adjustment when you create a symbol, okay? You also see these little star buttons, those small little star buttons, and you can see those star buttons pretty much everywhere. Those buttons are used to change this function on all of the existing symbols. So for example, if I go to the symbol and I see allow size adjustment, but I do not want to allow it and I want to change it in all symbols, then I click on the star. It says, are you sure you want to update all symbols? And when you say yes, all symbols allow size adjustment. So if I have, for example, if I put a model number CP500-100, and then I put company name, manufacturer name, Altinex Inc. It's important that we use this name to put the different parts together when we print bill of materials, to group them together. So it needs to be accurate. And sometimes I find that people create symbols and change the name just slightly, maybe forget a period or comma or something. So what you do, you go to any symbol, you just say manufacturer name, and then you click on the right-hand side here and you say, are you sure you want to update all symbols? Yes. And now all symbols will have identical name, will have identical on that field, okay? So that's a quick way for you to actually update the library with the new information without going to every single symbol. Okay. And we've talked about it before, but there's also custom fields. And all of the custom fields can be designed and you can actually name them. So if you want to put weight on it, you can put weight on your symbol. If you want to put, let's say, size, you can put the size on your symbol. And then when you actually go to symbol, it will adjust that to be different. Now remember, let me just go back so that I make it clear. The only time you adjust it is on the symbol number 1. When you go do it on symbol number 1, it will propagate to all other symbols. If you do it on all other symbols, you're just filling in the data. So go back to symbol number 1, custom field, and let's say we're going to put weight. Okay, and then you're going to put size, and you're going to put number of pieces in crate if you order multiple, something like that. Power, current, and then so now when you have this, one of the things that you can do, you can say, I want to calculate total current requirement for the rack. You can put a little sum here, okay? And then number of pieces in the crate and power. I want to do total power, so you can calculate here. Sometimes people like to put BTUs, well, how much heat my product is producing, so you can also put. So when you run the list of materials, it will add all of these together. It will add the power together and display it. It will add the current together, display it. It will add the BTUs, display it for you, okay? Now, when I try to, there's a question here. When I try to add libraries from web, I cannot connect to the web server. All right, this is an easy way to solve it, okay? Right-click on a little icon that you have here, or any icon for AVSnap. Right-click on it, all right? And you see there's a shortcut, AVSnap shortcut. Just right-click on that and go to Properties. When you go to Properties, you look at the compatibility, and you run this program as administrator. Windows 7 and Windows 8 is a little bit paranoid, so it will not. It has a hard time allowing people to go out and pick up something from the web. When you run it as administrator, and you say, okay, from now on, when you need to open something from the web, it will go ahead and display everything you have on the web. Okay. Now, some of the libraries are dated here because we update it only when the manufacturer sent it to us. But yeah, you can download and see how they work. Okay. The same thing if you have a project. If you want to open projects from the web, you can also open projects from the web. It gives you nice, clean information on some of the projects we've done, okay? But that helps answer your question. We already have the V.6.0, I think it's 0.1, all prepped up and ready, so probably today or tomorrow we will post it on our website, and we'll also post it on the forum, so you'll know when to start downloading. Also, keep in mind that you can always go to Help and then check for updates here. In addition to checking updates, once a week the program will check for update by itself. So if you open it first time during the week, it will tell you the update is available, and it will ask you if you want to upgrade to the latest version. It will automatically upgrade it. So you don't have to worry about it. As soon as it's available, it will push it right through. So once you have this, now when you go to different symbols, you can see that the name of this symbol, of these fields already changed. Number of pieces in the crate, size and weight and everything else. But there's no sum sign anymore because it's already taken care of in the symbol number 1. Okay. In some cases, you may want to convert symbol to object when placed on the page. And then I want to show you how it works. So let's say I'm going to take this 10 rack and I'm going to just convert symbol to object when placed on the page. And I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to try to return to project. Okay, so I return to the project. Let's go ahead and create page 1. And anytime we're going to bring the symbol on the page, you can see that it's broken in pieces. It's not an individual symbol. It's all different pieces together. So this is an important function in some cases where you want to just bring things in. For example, what I've seen a lot of times people do, they create different symbols for tags for the cables, and they may have different colors, maybe 5, 6 different colors. And when they bring it on the page, they just want it to be separate. So when they bring the page, they put the color chart in the corner, but it's not a symbol anymore because you can move them around individual pieces. So that's one of the functions that people can use also. All right. And right now, we're done with the webinar. And as always, I want to thank you for spending time with me on Tuesday morning. The next webinar is going to be programming webinar. It's going to be next Tuesday, and we're going to delve into RS-232, TCP/IP, and some coding, how to control VCR, DVDs, how to control IRs. And that's going to be an interesting webinar for people who actually do graphical user interface. If meanwhile you want to look at some things, you can always go to the examples in the menu area, and it has a project libraries, design libraries, control libraries, and control projects and control libraries. You can click on control projects, and it will open up control projects that we have kind of put together. We're going to use these control projects to learn how to use programming for AVSnap and user interface. And of course, we'll also learn how to generate a website using AVSnap and how you can use iPad to navigate to this website and use iPad to control your devices. All right, thank you again. Is it possible to make in library mode text box which can be editable in the project mode? Absolutely. You can do this. That's a small question, guys. We're done with everything, but I'll just answer this question. Let me go ahead and create a new project. It has a limited capabilities, but it can be done. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this library, edit library. And no, I don't want to save this project. So let's go ahead and edit library. And I'm going to add a new symbol here. So there's my new symbol. If I create a symbol, out of this created, the text can be added if you create it as the flowchart symbol. So if I right-click on it, and this is my symbol, go to Property and select it as a flowchart symbol, right there, flowchart symbol, and go ahead and save this. All right. So now, when I go to the project, if I pull the flowchart symbol, double-clicking on it allows me to put the text in, and it puts the text in, and you can adjust it horizontally, vertically. Now, that's a very limited capabilities. If you have something specific where you want to do on the symbols, just shoot me an email or just put it on the forum, and we can add it on the next version. It's not a problem. It's not a difficult issue. We just need to know what features you're using and what they're used for so that we can explain it to other people. All right, thanks again, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.